Okay, this will be an unusual video for me. I'm going to be playing you an interview between two journalists, Jonathan Sacerdoti and an Iranian dissident and journalist, Potkin Azarmehr. One of you marvellous subscribers sent me the link. I watched it and I found it deeply disturbing. It was 34 minutes long, which is often too much for most busy people. So what I did was cut it down to, well, around 13 minutes, just picking out the salient points. The link to the whole video is in the description, of course. It's a terrifying view of how the police treat, well, patriotic British people, basically. This chap, Potkin Azarmehr, happens to have come here at the age of 13 and he has a Persian name, but I doubt you could shove a razor blade between his love for this country and that of TRobinson, and you couldn't shove a razor blade between the way the two men are being treated as well. The same punishments, the same treatments. It's just astonishing. Okay, I'll butt out now. I'll just play the video and let you decide for yourselves. I'm Graniopteryx.
Iranian-born producer and investigative journalist arrested at a counter-protest against Hamas speaks out. I'm Jonathan Sacerdoti.
I went over to Whitehall to cover the pro-Hamas protest. And then from then I went to Piccadilly.
Basically, you were there as a journalist and you were reporting on that after having reported on something else. You're not even a protester there.
I wasn't a counter-protester, no, not on that day. And I was just about to go when this guy, who's quite well despised amongst the Iranian who oppose the regime because he got asylum, yet he promotes the regime. He recognised me. In 2017, I posted a picture of him waving a Hisbollah flag, which went viral.
So you had seen him once before at an Al-Quds Day march, taken that photo of him with a Hezbollah flag, and then you spotted him here on the 18th of May in central London.
He spotted me. I'd finished my filming. I was just about to go. I saw him pointing his camera at me. So I went up to him and we got into a discussion. I was saying, well, you're the one who came here on asylum and you were promoting the regime and probably getting benefits or something. And at that point, he grabbed my hand and pushed it down, and I just pushed his hand back, and then all of a sudden he pointed at a certain police officer and he said, oh look, they start shouting. You can see it all in the video, saying I've been pushed, this guy's hit me and everything. So suddenly I had something like, I don't know, I think in the video it shows about 8 policemen jump on me, and the woman, she was grabbing my head and she was trying to pull me on the floor. I was saying, what are you doing? I'm not resisting arrest. Why are you trying to get me on the floor? And they sort of handcuffed me, and I found out that the police officer, they actually arrested me and took me to the station and has written the arrest transcript, is actually Iranian. Now, the woman that was holding my head...
What did they arrest you for, by the way? Did they tell you?
Common assault. I've been charged with common assault.
Common assault.
And I was thinking, there's an Iranian policeman who's arresting me, and he's finding out about my address and about my contact details. This is compromising my security, but they just didn't seem to understand.
Would you go as far as to say that there are concerns among some that the police force in the UK may not be totally independent, may have been somehow infiltrated by people who have nefarious...
It's definitely the feeling that I get. I'm actually on an investigation on this. I'm helping other reporters, but I do get the feeling that there are certain police officers that have clear sympathies with the other side. I think it's apparent to everyone that the vetting and recruitment standards have definitely fallen within the police. A friend of mine, his son was mugged, and the police officer who came round could hardly speak English. Moving on to my arrest, so the police sergeant who was trying to pull my head down, I had an earlier conversation with her because Metropolitan Police had issued a statement on X asking for information about this person that they'd published his picture, saying if anyone's got any information on him, please let the Metropolitan Police know. And that person just walked past in the march. And a friend of mine who was watching it on live stream, he actually took a screenshot of it and sent it to me as well. So I'd gone up to this policewoman and I said, look, you've issued this statement on X asking for information about this guy. And then I showed him the screenshot that my friend had sent and said, like, this guy has just gone past, he's in the crowd, he's in the march. And she just wasn't interested.
There's been a lot of complaints about the fact that the police don't necessarily arrest people who appear to be breaking the law.
See, the thing is, these events are so badly managed, the police are reluctant to go for difficult arrests. They rather go for easy arrests. So anyways, I'm taken to Walworth police station. I was kept there in solitary for 10 hours. All I had was just smelly toilets and a makeshift bed. They wouldn't even give me like pen and paper. They took my phone away, which again compromises my security. Finally, this detective came to interview me, young, fresh university graduate, and I started explaining to him about this guy with the Hisbollah flag and that, and I sort of noticed that this guy doesn't know what Hisbollah is. He said, I've heard of them, but I haven't really looked into them. What sort of level of education is this? It was just a waste of time. It took him another 2 hours to come back and say that he's charged me with common assault. I left there about 12:15. Had to walk to Elephant and Castle station at night, get the tube back home.
Because another, slightly comic bit of video that I've seen doing the rounds is that the guy in question, the guy you mentioned that you'd previously photographed with the Hezbollah flag, after this incident, there's then footage of him sitting in an ambulance vehicle being assessed medically and treated, and the guy's then having his blood pressure taken and he's being assessed by an ambulance. You almost want to nominate him for an Oscar or something. But is, as you said, cack-handed or incompetent policing, which resulted in you being arrested and charged with common assault for what appears to, I think, the ordinary viewer to be nothing of the sort. That's the best case scenario. The worst case seems to be some form of pre-planned arrest and forceful arrest at that by multiple police officers of a working journalist out in London covering something which is of massive public interest, with the potential even for there to be an element of pre-planned vendetta by a single police officer who you'd spoken to before, or even potentially an Iranian police officer. And that
it's for the first time in 45 years that I have to say I am concerned. I feel like that the police is against us as well. And that's really, really worrying. Because, if they can arrest me for that, you feel like, well, they can easily frame me up for anything else. I feel that there are elements in the police force that I can't trust. And that is not a very comfortable feeling.
As I said, we've had the cases of Nihat Qurbani's multiple arrests. And like Nihat, they placed some over-the-top bail conditions on you. At first, I understand they said that you were banned from future protests, which, as a journalist, is quite tricky when that's part of your work. And then also there were other conditions. But you managed to have...
I wasn't allowed to go to the Westminster Borough. Anywhere
so again, this is exactly what they did to Nihat. They banned him from the Borough of Westminster, which is... You
should have seen the way they handcuffed me. I had bruises on my hands for several days. My shoulders, because I'm quite broad, and the way they handcuffed me in the back, I kept saying, when I was sitting in the van, I kept begging them. I said, look, I'm in the van, and I'm in a confined compartment. There's nothing I can do if you uncuff me, and they wouldn't do it. And I think it all goes to the root cause is the recruitment and the vetting, which is just so poor these days. There's so many mistakes on my arrest transcript. It's ridiculous. This can't go on.
I know that you are aware of the quite outrageous attack on some protesters outside an event that was being held after the death of the president of the Islamic Republic of Iran in a helicopter crash. And there was then a sort of memorial service praising the dead dictatorial president in Wembley in London. Outside the event, there were some people protesting against it taking place. And then, according to the video that I've seen online, these guys are aggressively gesturing towards the protesters from the other side of a fence. One even, I think, spits in their direction, and then they come out and start to beat the Iranian protest. They beat a woman on the floor. They beat another guy who I understand ended up in hospital with a fractured vertebra.
I spoke to him last night. He was still in hospital. He still can't walk.
Have they made any arrests?
No. Until yesterday, they hadn't taken any statements. So Mark Rowley was at that police board meeting. He didn't mention none of this was mentioned, right? So this is the situation. You have supporters of a proxy Iranian group that have killed British servicemen, that have injured British servicemen, that have kidnapped and taken hostage British citizens, like my friend Peter Moore, and held in captivity for almost 3 years. 4 of his bodyguards were killed, and they're openly having a service, an event, holding an event in public, pre-announced as well, and they're beating up Iranian dissidents, kicking a girl on the floor, and the police haven't done anything about it. You know, do you have to be a conspiracy theorist to think that something sinister is going on here? What, in a normal country, if agents of a hostile state were holding an open event and they beat up British citizens, they would be identified, rounded up and deported. What's going on? I mean, you mentioned that misconduct hearing about this member of the police in West Yorkshire who was found with stuff on his phone that's proved that he was a supporter of Hamas. And what did he get? Community order. He was wearing a keffiyeh as he turned up for his hearing.
I'm aware now of several Iranian origin people in the UK who are being arrested for what appears to me and to plenty of others to be for spurious reasons.
I mean, what we're doing wrong? We love our new country. We're loyal to our new country. We're against extremism. We don't want what happens in our place of birth to happen again here. But we're seeing all those elements repeating again, as if like history is repeating itself. So the left was massacred in Iran by the Islamists. And every time I want to say this to the leftists here, they just don't want to. It doesn't register with them. They don't understand that they'll be the first victims. They might find it convenient by going to bed with the Islamists, but what is your common value? I just don't understand, because there's such an important role that we can play because of our experience to save this country from falling into extremism. Instead, what happens? We're ignored, we're arrested, and they keep trying to appease them. So, they say history repeats itself. And I remember it was year 2000. I was at Speaker's Corner. And there was a small group of Islamists, around about 50. And one of them was on the pedestal talking, and he said something, and I challenged him. He came off it, and suddenly 50 people surrounded me. And he looked me in the eyes. He said, "Take back what you just said, or I'm going to smash your head against those railings behind you. And I don't care if I go to prison, because I'm doing it for my religion." And he was like looking at me in the eye, and he was dead serious about it. And I was telling my project manager about the incident. I was saying, "Look, I'm worried about the rise of extremism and Islamism here." And he laughed at me and said, "It's never going to happen here." That's what I heard in Iran. When I first heard the name of Khomeini, and I said, "Who the hell is Khomeini?" And then they told me who he is this exiled Ayatollah who's got all these extreme views, and he wants the women to be all covered up and this and that. I said, it's never going to happen in Iran, because Iran at the time was a secular country. Every time I hear people say it's never going to happen here, it means that people are being complacent. Extremism is like cancer. Every country has got extremists, but as long as they're kept at a margin to a small extent, you can control them. But if you don't control them and it gets out of hand, then it becomes very, very hard to get over it. And us Iranians here, we can play such an important role in fighting extremism. Instead, we're ignored, we're arrested, and all the time they try to keep appeasing the extremists, and they're getting like more and more audacious.
You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.